I am New York.
Ya sam New York.
I am New York.
Yo soy Nueva York.
Sono New York.
Je suis New York.
Welcome to DiverseCITY, where we explore New York's eclectic enclaves, one neighborhood at a time. I'm Zyphus LeBron. As independent sources, we took you into specifically ethnic and immigrant communities. On DiverseCITY, we're creating a broader tapestry, weaving history and current affairs to reveal a more robust representation of each region. This month, we're here in the South Bronx. Though the area's boundaries have shifted over the years, most agree that the neighborhoods of Mott Haven, Melrose, and Port Morris must always be included. The Bronx was initially settled by the wealthy Morrisania family in 1639. The South Bronx has historically been home to poor and working class communities, first white ethnic residents, later Latinos and African Americans. With changing demographics and urban decay, the neighborhood fell upon particularly hard times in the 1970s. That's when an arson epidemic virtually flattened the neighborhood. Since then, the South Bronx has become one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. On this episode, you'll hear in part about the origins of the South Bronx's blight. We'll tell you about why some South Bronx students are taking the Department of Education to court for what they say is a violation of their civil rights. And we'll profile a teacher who's using an ancient African art to educate students here in America. Those stories and more coming up as we take a walk through the South Bronx. For more than 20 years, health advocates and residents of Hunts Point have been pushing for officials to tear down the Sheridan Expressway because of its negative impact on the area. They thought they were almost there until Governor Andrew Cuomo unveiled a plan that falls short of their demands. The short road that links to the interstate highway system will instead be beautified with potted plants and some other cosmetic changes. Opponents argue traffic to the Hunts Point terminal market will not abate, and the safety and health concerns will go unmet. Gary Pierre tells us more in this report.
We have in this community 1 in 3 young people who suffer from asthma, and that's a very alarming statistic for us and one that we really want to try to alleviate.
Angela Tovar is Director of Development at The Point, a community development group based in the South Bronx. They've been part of the fight to refurbish the Sheridan Expressway. She says that in addition to the health hazards, the route is just plain dangerous and nearly impossible to cross.
In order for you to access the waterfront, you have to cross at certain places, but you can't just cross the street just from where you're at. So say, for example, if you're at the local high school that's right parallel to the Sheridan, kids don't have a walkway directly to all of the new parks that have just recently come online within the last 10 years within the neighborhood.
Even after more than 20 years of activism, the highway that Robert Moses built remains not only an eyesore, but a sore point for residents and activists.
We see clearly that there's an increase in traffic, that would in effect have a greater impact on pedestrian safety and fatalities. That particular intersection where Hunts Point is and you have where the Bruckner interchange, we've had a lot of more accidents and mortalities, and so the issue around traffic easement and pedestrian safety has been a priority.
Community activists like Tovar and Clemente of the nonprofit Nos Cuidamos feel that their views and concerns are not being taken seriously.
It's about time they start paying attention to our community, and it's about time they start investing in ways that we could really improve the current land use and make it beneficial for the community.
Completed in 1963, the road is about 1.25 miles long and runs north parallel to the Bronx River from Hunts Point to East Tremont. The route was built as an alternative to the Bronx River Parkway that would allow commercial vehicles that were otherwise banned from parkways in New York. However, what it became was a project that displaced thousands while it was being built and created a health crisis and safety issue that still exists today.
The environmental impacts of just truck traffic and particulate matter in the air particles that people are consuming and that they're breathing. You know, we have one of the highest rates of asthma here in the local community, and so that's always an issue for us as well.
The community has arrived at a general set of proposals and recommendations that can take place there. Unfortunately, now that there's political will and political investment, it's not matching what the long-term analysis has taken place.
Clemente is referring to a recent state plan proposed by Governor Andrew Cuomo, a $1.8 billion retransformation of the Sheridan Expressway. The boulevard will have a number of pedestrian and cyclist lanes. The reconfigured roadway will be known as New York State Route 895, and it will be maintained by State Department of Transportation officials when work is completed in a few years.
This is one of the most industrialized areas of the entire city.
As editor of the Hunts Point Express, Joe Hirsch has followed this story for years and says that the plan as it stands now will only shift the problem and not solve it.
The advocates say that as long as the Sheridan remains standing, that is just an enormous block of space that is not going to be used by the public, by the community for waterfront access, but instead is going to be used by trucks. And as a result, that contributes to some of the city's worst asthma problems because of the trucking fleets that the Sheridan itself serves.
That will make it
Adam Green runs Rocking the Boat, a youth empowerment organization that teaches life skills to boat building. The state's proposal will shift the bulk of the traffic near him.
It's really kind of a big bait and switch on the community. What the community thought they had won last year when this came down was a huge improvement of the Sheridan Expressway. Would be decommissioned, turned into a boulevard. People would have easy access to the river. It wouldn't be this barrier between the river and the community. The river is this amazing asset. It's this wealth of opportunity and resources for the community that until quite recently the community never had any awareness or access to at all.
But for the foreseeable future, this option is off the drawing board. Construction on the state's plan started last month. For Diverse City, I'm Gary Pierre-Pierre.
This next story takes us just south of the Grand Concourse, one of the major thoroughfares crisscrossing this borough. There's an effort afoot at a small high school that could change the lives of more than 17,000 Black and Hispanic students who don't have access to sports. It's a story that goes back nearly 20 years and exposes the inequities that still exist in New York City's very segregated school system. Lisa Parks, a student at the Bronx Academy of Letters, is one of 4 plaintiffs who have filed a class action lawsuit against the Department of Education. The suit claims, in part, that the DOE's allocation of resources for sports in high schools attended by a majority Black and Latino students is a, quote, ongoing violation of New York City human rights law, which prohibits discrimination based on race, color, or national origin.
I wanted to be a part of it because I felt like if I got my story out, others would probably come and get their story out too. And at the same time, it's like they're gonna wanna be able to stand up if they see somebody else standing up to something that's not fair.
Parks is a hurdler and basketball player who moved to New York from Ola High School in Georgia nearly 2 years ago. She wanted to be part of the lawsuit after meeting this man, David Garcia Rosen. The action is the culmination of Rosen's efforts since 2010 to get the DOE to change its policies. Rosen says that under the former CEO of the Public Schools Athletic League, Eric Goldstein, the department systematically marginalized minority students.
What makes it even more infuriating is when you look at who has sports and who doesn't. So when you look at it more closely, what you find is in a school that has white students or has Asian students, the access to sports is much greater. And it's almost like a perfect line graph. So as the number of Black and Latino students goes up, the number of sports teams goes down.
The problem reaches back 20 years when Mayor Michael Bloomberg and philanthropists like Microsoft mogul Bill Gates championed the small school movement. The idea was to break down schools with 4,000 students and more to make classrooms more manageable. A good idea in theory, but it had an unexpected side effect.
On face value, it doesn't seem like a terrible idea, right? You have smaller student body, more interaction between the principal and the students, more personal relationships, but also what happened is pretty much overnight you had the disappearance of interscholastic sports. You combine that with the fact that when they built these small schools, they put them essentially in segregated neighborhoods, so you wind up with small schools that are also segregated, and now you have a separate school system, a segregated school system.
The most segregated school system in the country, according to a 2014 study conducted by UCLA's Civil Rights Project. Beyond the alleged civil rights violations, Rosen says there's something more at stake. The future of student athletes like Lisa Parks, whose grades have improved because of her involvement in track and field.
Do you think your life would be different if you didn't run track or if you played basketball?
Of course.
How so?
I wouldn't be me doing track. I mean, I'm confident, I'm more positive, I'm happier, and actually it just brings excitement, not to me, but to my whole family.
We're seeing young people who haven't traditionally been successful in a classroom setting going to speak at conferences in Los Angeles or sitting on the board of a nonprofit organization doing school integration work. So this is a space where we're saying, like, use your voice, use it to do something that you believe in, and then leave, hopefully, with making a change for yourself and your community.
Erin Gary is the principal at the Bronx Academy of Letters. The school has 590 students and shares the building with a charter and middle school. Gary says the academy prides itself on creating community leaders and is proud to support Parks and Rosen, especially after Rosen says the DOE blacklisted him. He claims that the department made it hard for him to find a teaching job after he spurred students at the International Community High School to protest the issue while he was a teacher there.
Coming here, he was in a space where the leaders of the school and the school community believed in him and wanted to help him, so that it wasn't just David fighting this battle, but he has a team of people that believe in what he believes in and that want to make changes for our kids so that they have access to what they deserve to have access to.
Access to sports is one part of the issue. Facilities is the other. The Public Schools Athletic League, or PSAL, is the DOE's arm that decides which schools get to play competitive high school sports. It also pays for facilities, uniforms, and officials for high school games. So when the league doesn't provide the funds, small schools like Bronx Letters are left to their own devices.
Aside from paying coaches and then using our discretionary budget to purchase supplies and uniforms, for our students, we're not using a lot of money. Our coaches have been doing a lot of fundraising on Donors Choose and different engines like that so that we can afford to buy new uniforms because we don't have a lot in our budget for this right now.
This is a relic. This entire room used to be filled with these. And garbage and storage, and like it was just an abandoned space, and we turned it into this. Now our home locker room.
Oh, nice.
Isn't this cool?
This
TRX room. So this is another space that, you know, again, just trying to, like, we have to make it happen, because if we don't, we just be another school that has no athletic facilities.
Much has been happening around the issue lately that has Rosen optimistic about the future of high school sports in small schools. First, there was the firing of Eric Goldstein, the former head of the PSAL, who Rosen had fought with for years over the issue. Also, the new school's chancellor, Richard Carranza, recently mentioned steps he was taking to address inequities in the system during a City Council Education Committee hearing.
In the PSAL League, I've moved to the Deputy Chancellor for School Climate and Wellness, LaShawn Robinson, so she has PSAL. Again, with PSAL, there are some equity questions that we're working through under Deputy Chancellor Robinson's leadership.
Rosen already has a plan that he's instituted at Bronx Letters that he thinks will help.
So what you do is you take different schools in the neighborhood within about a mile radius and you combine them into one program. So what we've done here is we call it Bronx United. Then you have a big enough student body to actually fill multiple teams.
A small idea that could mean big things for students like Lisa Parks, who's become part activist, part student leader, because of sports.
It's not only about sports, but it's me being a better student and me doing better in class, listening and everything. They follow me, and even when Mr. David comes in class and everything and the kids talk, I'd be like, yo, Mr. David's cool, so chill.
You just heard a report about students fighting for their rights. Now we'll tell you about a man who's schooling his pupils on what those are. Alassane Sasso won the 2019 prize for New York State's Teacher of the Year. He works at the International Community High School, where he lectures to recently arrived immigrants. As an immigrant to the U.S. himself, Sasso has had to overcome many obstacles after leaving his native Gambia in West Africa. We dropped in on the educator during one of his classes.
I come from the griot family. Griot basically simply translates to storyteller. My family, I hail from a long line of storytellers and oral historians. So my family are the keepers and transmitters of our people's history. And today, as an American history teacher, those skills are still valuable in this context because stories are the bond that keep humanity together. On Thursday, we explored the legal strategy that the NAACP used to be able to fight segregation. Now let's talk about Brown versus Board of Education. I don't know if you guys ever see these kinds of kids. It's winter time, and you get off the number 6 train, and you see this little tiny on the table, and they have their hat, they have their scarf, and they're like this, and they have their boots that come all the way here. Yes, yes, and then they have their book bag, and then thank you, their gloves. How do they look? So cute. All you want to do is what? Hug them. The point I'm trying to make is there is a place in our hearts for little kids that doesn't exist when you are old. The same thing applies to the Supreme Court. Even though they are very serious people, do they have emotions? Yes. So what the NAACP did was that they chose cases that people could feel emotional about. For example, Brown v. Board of Education. Linda Brown was 7 years old when they chose her case. She could go to a school that's 2 blocks from her house, but because she was black, she had to go to a school that was 2 miles away. Now, in one of my classes today, somebody did the math. That's like walking 40 blocks instead of walking 2 blocks.
Mr. Hassan, I had a lot of history teachers, but him, especially I only been there for a few weeks, almost a month, and I think his teaching really teach me a lot about race. And history is my favorite subject, so I'm looking forward also in college to, learn more about what the past was.
I moved from my country to the United States 16 years ago. I was afforded opportunities and assistance that allowed me to rise to the top of my field in education in the state of New York. I am now being used as an example to many other immigrants and to many other kids who might feel marginalized or who might feel hopeless, that a kid could leave his homeland at the age of 16 with just $20, 2 pairs of pants and shirt, and an incurable eye disease, and come to a country where he did not know anybody. And in 18 years, he's able to work hard and rise to the top.
I came to this country by 2015 without knowing any English, and Mr. Al-Hassan, he taught me a lot how to be confident with myself. I know that I can learn from others, and also people can learn from me.
What do we usually say on Monday? How do you usually start class on Monday? You guys have your affirmation for Monday?
Yeah. You must succeed.
I must succeed. Because if we begin to have more and more successful brown and black people, would we then have more and more successful society? Yes. Exactly.
Finally from us, the phrase living legend gets thrown around a whole lot sometimes and doesn't really apply. But that's not the case with this month's neighborhood holdout. Famed Latin composer Miguel Angel Amedeo, known to many as Mike Amedeo, has owned and operated his music store in the South Bronx for almost 5 decades. He tells us how he became a neighborhood staple in his own words.
My father wrote so many songs in those years, 30s and 40s, that became famous. So when I became a musician at the age of 14, I was already playing guitar. And I started, at the age of 16, I started recording already and writing songs. And the way I got into these record companies in those years was, all I had to do was, when I used to give those people my name is Miguel Amedeo, Mike Amedeo. Says, are you related to Titi Amedeo? Every door was open for me. I did my first recording in 1950, which is, at the age of 16, I was already in studio singing as a soloist. After working 9 years with Allegro Records, where I was, with the big artists and big names, I decided to go and search for something from my own, something of my own. And it so happened that the very famous Rafael Hernandez and Victoria wanted to get rid of this store because he was getting old and he wanted to retire. And that's when I got my break. When I bought here in 1969, it was kind of rough. The buildings in the neighborhood started burning up. That's when they used to say the Bronx is burning. This one building, which happens to be a beautiful building, has elevator and everything, real nice. It was abandoned for a while, almost a year. There was no heat, there was no water, and I was here, and I told myself, I'm not gonna leave. The business was good. I said, I'm gonna stick it out, and I did. Every time that the community will come to me for help, I will write up a check. We had a series of concerts, music concert right next to PS 52 school, and there's a park there, and I used to pay for one concert every year. Things like that, and people, anybody in the community that is in need of anything that I could do for them, I would always say it. The music business in the 60s and 70s and 80s was great. It was a money-making machine this year. So I was able to save a little money. Now things aren't as good as I would like to, but I'm well off. Yo estoy bien. I get royalties from the music that I've written, and the money that comes into the bank from my royalties and things like that. Right now I got a small check there too. I take from my savings, 5,000, 10,000, put it in the checking to cover my bills. And it covers. So I have no problem. Whether the store does good on sales and things like that, as long as I have the store and I can come here every day, and talk to you guys, it's more than enough. They want to make it a landmark. They even sent me the letter so I could sign it. All they need is my okay. But then, if anything happens to me, who's going to take care of it? My sons, I don't think they want to get involved. This is not their line, and I'm not going to force them. And the only person that I had is a person that worked for 22 years with me, and it so happened 6 years ago, he passed. And we were always talking about that, if anything happens to me. And I was willing to give him the store. And unfortunately, at an early age, he was only 60 years old when he got sick, cancer. That was it. So since then, that's all I keep thinking, oh my God, how I need this man. But I'm going to pray alone. Let's see what happens.
Thanks for coming along with us this month on our trip through the South Bronx. Join us next time when we head out to Jamaica, Queens to explore that part of our diverse city.